In this video, we are going to cover what a built-in namespace is, how is it different from built-in objects, how does Python resolve the names, and how you can add and modify the names inside the built-in namespace. Let's start with what is a built-in namespace. Built-in namespace is the outermost namespace. It sits on top of local and global namespace. This is created automatically by Python when the application starts, and it is loaded with built-in objects. When we say built-in objects, these are the objects that Python provides you out of the box so that you don't have to implement yourself, such as min and max function. You can use this function to find the minimum value from a list. You can use print to print out the statements. And similarly, you also have exceptions like key error, value error. So all of these are built-in objects that Python provides, and all of these are already loaded into the built-in namespace. That means you can use these methods in your application without having to implement them or without even having to import them, because they're already part of the built-in namespace. And anything that is in the built-in namespace is shared across all the modules that you have. So if you were to add new things in this built-in namespace, it would be accessible for all the other modules that you have in your application. And anything that you add in the built-in namespace lives as long as your Python application lives, basically. Now let's look at difference between built-in objects and built-in namespace. They are often used interchangeably, meaning they are the one. But there is a fine difference between built-in objects and built-in namespace. So namespace is just a container that holds the built-in objects. When we say built-in objects, we mean everything that Python provides you, such as functions, exceptions that you can use without having to implement them yourself, like this function sum, min, max, and so on. So this built-in namespace is just a container which holds all of these built-in objects. By default, you don't have to add them. Python adds it for you, but this container is not limited to built-in objects. You can add your own functions to it, you can add your own variables, you can add your own exceptions to this namespace, and then it will be accessible for all your modules in your application. So this is the major difference between what a built-in object and built-in namespace is. This is what the namespace structure would look like and how they would interact with each other. So suppose you have an application with two modules, foo.py and bar.py. So what Python does is it creates a global, or let's say a single built-in namespace, which engulfs your both modules, foo.py and bar.py. For each module, for foo.py, Python creates one global namespace, and this global namespace is or can be accessed by the local namespaces within this module. Same thing for another module, it creates another global namespace, and this global namespace can be accessed by these local namespaces. So both of these are kind of isolated, meaning the local namespace in this module won't be able to access whatever is available in the global namespace of this module. So this is not possible. Same thing, the local namespace of this module won't be able to access anything in the global namespace of this module. So all of the namespaces are isolated. So for each module, you have one global and multiple local namespaces. And same thing for other module, again, you have one global and multiple local namespaces. But for all of these, you have just one built-in namespace. So anything that you add in this built-in namespace will be accessible by all of your other local namespaces or your global namespaces. So if you add any function to this, it will be accessible throughout your application. If you modify something, it will be affected throughout your application. Now let's look at an example to see how all of this works. Here I have a very simple example where I have a string called hello world, and I am trying to print the length of this string. To print the length, I am using this function called len, which I have not defined anywhere in my application. And later on, I'm trying to convert a string to an integer. For this, again, I have a try and except block, and in the except block, I'm using this exception called value error. Again, I have not imported this from anywhere, I'm just using it. So let's try to run this and see what happens. Okay, so we can see that the length of a string is 11, and I see the print message of wrong value. That means there was an exception, it caught an exception, and it printed this statement. So how does this works? So here, when we define a function called len, because we are in the global scope here, or global namespace, Python first looks for this len function in the global namespace. It does not find it, so it goes one step up and it goes to the built-in namespace. And because this is a built-in object that Python creates and adds in the built-in namespace, we can access it here. Same thing for the value error. It is also included in the built-in objects, and that's why we can use it here without having to import anything. Just a note, anything that is available in your built-in namespace, you can use them directly. You don't need to import anything. Now let's try to verify that this length method is actually available in the built-in namespace. So how do we do that? This is how we do that. So first we'll run this, we'll see the output, and then we will explain what is happening here. So let's run it. Cool. So the first line, we are printing all the names that are available in the global namespace. So this is the first line. Here we have lots of names, but the ones that we're interested in is this one, underscore underscore built-ins underscore underscore. So here this name is pointing to a module called built-in. So this is the module that Python creates when it starts your application. And after it creates this built-in module, it loads this module in the built-in namespace. And finally, it also adds the reference of this module in your global namespace, so you can access it. The second line is just printing this name called built-in, and because this is pointing to the built-in module, you can see it here like this. It is pointing to the module called built-ins. And now we have a string, a variable called a string whose value is hello world. And finally, we are printing the length of this string. But this time, we are not using the len function directly, but we are accessing it through this built-in name, which is just a pointer to the built-in module. So that means we are using the built-in module to access this len function. And here we can see that the len function is actually working. So we could have done it in a different way as well. Like instead of using this pointer, we could have simply imported the built-in. And now we can do the same thing here. So I'll just copy it and paste it. And instead of this name, I'm going to now use the built-in module. And I'm going to run this application again. So we have now two print statements, because the first one is from the name, which is pointing to the built-in module. The second one is directly from the built-in module. We have verified that this length function is actually part of this built-in module which Python has created. And because this module is in the built-in namespace, the way the Python lookup works is it first looks in the local, then in the global, and then finally in the built-in. So that's why we can use this length function without having to import anything, and just use the len and pass the parameter here. So the parameter was string. Maybe just let me copy it. Let me remove this one. And this time I'm just simply going to use the len function. Now let's run it again. So we should see three print statements. Cool. So the reason we don't need to import len function, because it is part of the built-in namespace, and every module in your application has access to this built-in namespace. That's why it can work. So this is how the built-in namespace works. Let's look at how we can add new names to this built-in namespace and also modify the existing ones. So we'll start with adding a new name to this built-in function. So what I'm doing in this application is I've created a function called myAwesomeFunction. This function, what it does is it just prints I'm awesome with args. Whatever argument you provide, it will just print this message with that argument. And now to add anything in the built-in namespace, we import this built-in module, and then we just add a new attribute, basically a new name to this module. And this is the value of that name. So it can be a function, it can be a constant, it can be anything you want basically. So once we have done this, we have successfully added two names to the built-in module. One is this myAwesome function. This name points to this actual function which prints some message, and another name is some constant which points to an integer object. Because this is added in the built-in namespace, we can actually access this from any other module of our application. So to do that, I have created another module called helper, and in this module I have created a function called calling awesome function. It first prints that I'm calling an awesome function in another module, and then I'm calling the name that I have added in the built-in namespace, which is my awesome function, with an argument 5. I'm also accessing the other name which I added, which was some constant. So here, as you can see, I don't need to import anything. I can just use these names here, because when Python will look for this name, it will start with the local namespace because it is inside a function. It won't find it there. Then it will go to global namespace. We don't have it in the global as well. And finally, it will go to the built-in namespace. And because we added, and because we added these names in the built-in namespace, now it will be accessible for this module as well. So now let's run this application and see what happens. So now I have added it, and now I'm going to import the module, the helper module. It's already imported. Now I'm going to just call this function. So let me comment it out, or let's say uncomment it. I'll leave the comment here. So what I'm doing is I'm calling the myAwesome function from another module, and in the helper method I have created this method called calling awesome function, which in fact calls this built-in name. I'll just comment out anything else that we have here. Cool. So now I'm going to run this application. Before that, let me clear the terminal. Now let's run it. Okay, so as you can see, we have some print statements here. So let's go over them and see what happened. So at this point, we added new name. At this point, we invoked the function in another module. So let's go to another module. So this function was invoked. We can see this print statement here, calling awesome function in another module. Now we are using this new name that we have added called myAwesome function. And this awesome function basically points to this method. And here what it does is it just prints I am awesome with arguments. So we can see that I am awesome with argument 5. And we are also printing the value of the constant, which was 10. So we can see that here. So this is how you can add new names to the built-in namespace. And once you do that, now this name is accessible to all the other modules that you have in your application. So this was about adding new names. And because these namespaces are just a dictionary, you can add or you can even modify the existing ones. So in the previous example, we saw that we have this namespace called, we have this method called length, which is available already in the built-in namespace, meaning we don't have to add it. So I'm just calling this function with argument of this list 1 to 3. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this function in the built-in namespace. So previously this length name was pointing to a function which had the implementation of calculating the length of the list. And now what I'm doing is I'm substituting the original implementation with my own implementation, which is again this awesome function. So now this length, when we'll try to call it, this will point to this function and it will invoke this function basically. So this will comment this out, uncomment it. Let me fix it. Cool. So now we are going to uncomment this line, so we have less outputs which you don't want at this point. So this example is to show how you can modify the existing ones. So let's go over it once again. So we have this print statement which uses the length function. We print the value, then we modify the implementation of length, and then we call this length function here. That's it. And to verify that this is not just happening in this module, it's global, we are going to now call this length function from another module which we have here. This is my helper module. So here I have again created a new function called len, and again I am using this len and I'm passing the parameter. Let me change the parameter here. So now this len function should have also been modified because they are all part of the same built-in namespace. So to do that, I'm going to now again uncomment this line. So we have this helper module. We have inside this helper module a function called call len, which internally calls the len function. So now let's run this and see what happens. So first let me clear it. Now I'm going to run it. Okay, so let's walk through the output. First we have this line where we are printing the length of the list, which is 3. That's good. Now we are modifying the length function, and after that we are calling this new length function. So when we call the new length function, as you can see, instead of the previous implementation, now it is pointing to the new implementation. And in the new implementation, we are just printing this message with the argument. So that's why you can see here, I'm awesome with args 1 to 3. And now after the modification, this was the part, and this line printed length of list, and because this function is not returning anything, we're just printing the value is null. Finally, we are calling this len function in another module, which just calls the len function, and again we can see the similar thing. I am awesome with args 1 2 3 4. So that means you can actually modify all the built-in objects, or you can add your own names to this built-in namespace and it will be global. So be very careful when you modify this, because some of the built-in modules are used internally and it may break things. So again, be extra careful when you modify anything in the built-in namespace, because it will be applicable for your entire application. So that's it for this video. So if you have any feedback, any questions, please add them in the comment section, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.